All right, let's talk about eating disorders. Let's talk about eating disorders. Let's talk about your passion project. I know you have been traveling around and you've been talking to universities. You've been talking to anybody that'll listen. I know that you're trying to get this into schools. I know that you're very, very passionate about this subject. And you've, in a lot of ways, you've devoted your life to it. So tell us how this gets going. How do you start this journey? Where does this start for you?
Diets. Let's start with diets. Okay.
Yeah, like the whole anti-diet experience. I read your book, obviously. She has a book out there, guys. I read your book, and we've known each other for I was thinking about this 7 years, right? We went to the same school. We know each other. We've had a history, and I read your book, and I was like, wow, this is amazing that you just took off in this direction. But that's from your passion, right? So how did you go? How does your journey start?
Well, probably when I met you, Ken, I was already, I wasn't acting out in bulimic behaviors, okay? So my history is that I basically started with dieting when I was about 13, 14. And, as far as I'm concerned, diets are the gateway to eating disorders, okay? Just like alcohol is often the gateway to substance abuse, right? So I really believe diets are the gateway to eating disorders because I haven't come across anybody yet who's gone from nothing to an eating disorder without experimenting with a lot of restricting in between. So I basically started with all these weird and wacky diets. And when they failed, which they ultimately do, I then progressed on to I was pretty much anorexic actually in the beginning. And and then, I went through a phase of being anorexic, and then I had a girlfriend, and I talk about this when I do my talks. I had a girlfriend who was bulimic, and she, said, well, this is what I do, and that's what I ultimately started doing. And so, I did it for 25 years, and nobody knew. Nobody.
Oh, wow.
The closest people in my life, my family didn't know. My husband at the time didn't know. My kids didn't know. And it was just my weird little thing with food,
Bulimia has got a lot to do with control, right? You just felt like you were controlling something in that, you were controlling either your image or you're controlling the way you look, or there's some sense of control. Did you realize what you were trying to control in that?
All eating disorders it's all around control. It's about, I can't control anything else in my life, so by damn, I'm going to control this. This is one thing that I can control. And, I had a lot of stuff going on when I was growing up. My parents divorced, and I was moved around quite a bit. It was pretty traumatic. It was traumatic. A lot of disorders stem from traumatic experiences. But again, having said that, I've spoken to people, and they said, you know what, I had a really happy family growing up, and there was nothing in particular, I became so obsessed with Vogue at 14. I collected all these Vogues, I was obsessed with, her name was Edie Sedgwick, and she was Andy Warhol. God, I can't speak today. Sorry, folks. Andy Warhol's muse was, like Twiggy, basically. It's like Twiggy back in the day. And I wanted to be, it was like this ultimate goal of how thin can I get, And you don't realize when you're doing that, over a period of time, it really starts to alter your brain chemistry. And then it spirals, and I was in so much denial. Ridiculous amount of denial. I didn't really come to terms with it fully. I wasn't acting out in behaviors when I met you, but I was still in denial, would you believe? And it was that program, actually, we actually touched on that. We did eating disorders in the program. And, that's when I started to really look at it and go, oh my God, that weird thing that I've had with food for 25 years, that's my weird thing, it's actually an eating disorder.
Nice.
And, and then so yeah, it's my passion. I really do. My mission and my passion is the prevention of eating disorders, and getting to teens, pre-teens. They're restricting and dieting now as young as 6 and 7. They watch them get on the scale and then they jump on the scale.
Yeah.
And it's. I have so much to say about it. I don't even know what to say.
All right, sure. So
it's a problem. Sorry, go ahead.
I'm focusing in on the word prevention, and I'm like, how do you prevent it? We're inundated with thousands of images all the time. We're always talking about image. We're talking about the way we look at it. How do you prevent it? Because you were talking about going to schools and trying to go to schools. You said something about California's trying to pass a law or something to get it into schools. But how do you feel like you got to prevent that?
Well, it's just awareness, and this is one of those topics that. Honestly, it really blows my mind. It really blows my mind. People just don't want to talk about it. They don't want to talk about it. And of course they don't, right? It's food. We can't live without food. It's like saying you have a problem with, air or, I don't know. People just don't want to talk about it. They're uncomfortable talking about it. And, prevention, awareness is huge here. So, talking about it in schools. This is where I really believe they need to start talking about this in schools, probably grade 3, grade 4, start introducing it. I actually went through the California curriculum and I couldn't find, apart from I think maybe grade 4, grade 5, I mean, someone's probably going to call me on this, where they actually raise the topic of eating disorders. But there's just not enough time spent on let's look at dieting and restricting and what that can turn into. Because essentially, let me just say this, okay? This is what I would really like to help people to realize, because we're focusing on the weight portion and the physical portion, but people don't realize that when they start to diet, they change their natural, innate, God-given, instinctual relationship with food. If that's gone, that you really destroy that, and
that's intuitive,
it becomes
right?
An obsession, and that obsession comes from deprivation. So
okay.
That's the number one problem right there. There's a problem right there. You're obsessing, journaling, restricting, yo-yo dieting. And then, of course, when that all fails, boom, you've all of a sudden you've got what looks like an eating disorder. And, with social media and Instagram, have the birth of orthorexia nervosa, which is a brand new eating disorder, which basically stems from, healthy eating. I only eat kale. I only do greens. I only do this. And, ultimately it becomes a diet in itself. I mean, there's so much.
Oh, wow.
Now, right?
Yeah,
there's so much.
Sure.
Every time I go on Instagram, there's something new. So
the same demon. So would you say, I know there might be some flack here, but these people that are ultra, so you're saying these ultra diets, even though they're clean, even though we're clean eating and we're doing all this stuff, that sometimes that's another form of eating disorder. Sometimes that's you just trying to control your food, or you just trying to control whatever's going on, right? So it kind of looks different. It looks better. We don't villainize it as much as something else, but maybe underneath all of that, there's something else going on.
Yes, I mean, it's intuitive eating is not about what you're eating. It's about how you're eating. I'm going to say that again for everybody listening out there. Intuitive eating is not about what you're eating. It's about how you're eating it. Okay, so, when I talk to people, I say, because the third principle in the book of intuitive eating, which is this book, by the way, which is Evelyn Tribble and Elise Rage. This is the first edition. They've actually got a new edition out, I believe. The third principle is make peace with food. So You can't do that when you're saying, I can only eat this and I can only eat that and I can only eat this. You know, then you're not really making peace with food. You have to allow yourself unconditional permission to eat. Now, you know, I'm saying that, okay, but me personally, I have a lot of food allergies. So, yeah, certain things I can't eat, okay? But when you say, I'm never going to have ice cream and I'm never going to have pizza and I'm never going to have sushi, and I'm never going to have this, and I'm never going to have that, you become obsessed with that thing you can't have. The minute you deprive on that, it becomes an obsession. And so we go from these extremes of deprivation, I'm not going to have it, but then 2 weeks from now, I'm going to have it. And then you go, wow, and then it becomes binge. And while I'm talking about that, how I healed myself, how I really, really, really healed from bulimia was eating, because intuitive eating is all about balance, and it's all about finding moderation. It's all about listening to your hunger. It's all about finding your satiety, okay? It means that you have that balance that you don't have in the eating disorder, which is all extremes of black and white. Starving, binging, starving, binging. And so what happens is when you're intuitive eating, you remove the triggers. Okay, and the triggers are, in a bulimia, obviously if you overeat, you want to purge, right? And back down on your behaviors. And when you're intuitive eating, you remove those triggers because you say, okay, I want to have this, I want to have that, but I'm eating within my hunger and within my satiety. So don't overly, you're not going crazy, you know?
Yeah. It's not the strict diet and then the failure and then start the cycle and then strict diet failure, and it's kind of like this, right? So you're saying if I have balance, if I give myself permission, I think one of the greatest things I think you said it to me or I read it in your book. You said, not everybody wants to eat a salad every single day. Not everybody wants to eat a donut every single day. Sometimes your body wants a donut and sometimes your body wants a salad. And it's just like about understanding what my body wants when my body wants it. And you're saying, like, if I give myself permission to have that kind of mindset, then I am not going to have these extreme behaviors. So I'm not going to be all over the place.
Because a diet is essentially this, okay? So you put yourself on this diet and, you know, it's strict. You're deprived the whole time, okay? In the feeding book, they describe it as a seesaw, okay? The old-fashioned seesaw. And you guilt and you got deprivation, okay? The deprivation on your diet is really high. When I do my talks, I have a G and a D, actually. So deprivation on your diet is really high because you're on a diet. You're deprived. And you deprive yourself, but your guilt is low, right? Because you haven't broken your diet. And, you know, then what happens is, you know, we ultimately cave at some point and it becomes binge. Or people get off the diet because you can't stay on, you know, a shake for breakfast and a shake for lunch and a bar for dinner for the rest of your life. You know, they're unrealistic. You can't stay on that. So ultimately when they come off, you start eating normal again, and they gain back the weight, and then on and on and on and on.
And it's
okay, that didn't work. I'm going to try keto. That didn't work. I'm going to try Noom is the other one I've just noticed. And then if that doesn't work, I'm going to try this. I'll do Weight Watchers. I'll do. You know, my stepmother in England's been on a diet every Monday for 30 years. God bless her. Every Monday for 30 years. It's funny because it's become tradition.
Yeah.
You know.
Totally. But isn't it just constantly like, it's also speaking into us that we're never enough. Like, we're never enough. We're never good enough. Like, and it's kind of like this battle of, it's almost like self-fulfilling. It's like this battle we never seem to win that always keeps us stuck in our self-image or something to that effect. Do you notice it's so tied in with self-image and perception and feeling like enough and self-love,
and then,
right?
You know, so with perfection and then with eating disorders, what happens is, here's an example of how distorted I became about my size, my body size, okay? So I was probably only, you know, what, in my mind, and I don't really want to put numbers out there because it's very triggering to people, but let's just, you know, for the sake of it, say I was probably like 15, 20 pounds overweight. I wasn't overweight, you know? Anyhow, but again, I was obsessed with, you know, Vogue. I was obsessed with Vogue magazine, and anyway, and I was about 15, 16 years old. And I remember this so well, is I went on this crazy liquid thing, okay, liquid diet for like, 6 weeks, 8 weeks. And I had a very, very physical job at the time in a factory, actually. Like, I just came out of school and I got this crazy factory job, which was very physical. And I lost a lot of weight. And I remember going past a mirror and going, oh my God, look at that skinny chick. This is what I said to myself, okay? Being really transparent now. Look at that girl. And then I looked at her and, oh my God, that's me. Me. And then, but then I didn't feel that way, right? I felt 10 times bigger than this image. There's this total distortion. And even, I'd go shopping and I would, pick up clothing at a store and say, oh, I'm not going to fit in that. There's no way I'm going to fit in that. And then say, well, I'll try, and then in the changing room, discovered that it was falling off of me. It's, and I was thinking, what is wrong with me? Why can't I see this? Why can't I see this? And
it's like a body dysmorphia.
It's body dysmorphia. And, and then I start thinking, well, did I have this before I had the eating disorder? Was it always there? Or, did this happen after the eating disorder? Again, it's these little insidious things that creep up. And it does alter the chemicals in the brain, I wrote papers on it when I was in...
Yeah. How do you get a good relationship with your self-image? Is that like it sounds like it's part and parcel with kind of the whole thing, right? Dieting, you have a bad relationship with self-image. So self-image is a thing. How do you get past that where you do start to look at yourself in an appropriate way?
Well, I mean, that's just a process, and it's a lot of self-work and it takes time. And I think that I got to the point where I just thought, you know what? I just don't want to hurt myself anymore. I really, really need to appreciate my body, and I need to value my body, and I really need to value my health, because I started having health issues. I was having arrhythmia. I was having heart palpitations. I was having chronic eczema all over my body. I was having chronic migraines, having a lot of health issues. And that was the wake-up call for me. Not that I recommend that for anyone. It's really preferable. You do not get to that point. Okay?
Right. Yeah. It'd be nice if we can get it before we get sick.
But that was my personal wake-up call. And I just thought, you know what? It's just not worth it. I have to start loving my body and appreciating my body, because this is the vehicle that's going to move me through the rest of my life. And it's going to kill me. And is it really worth it? But it's baby steps. It's baby steps. There's a big body positivity movement out right now, obviously, which is fantastic. I noticed a lot of celebrities over COVID-19, from home, no makeup, just get down there.
Totally. Yeah.
That's great. I love it. Let's see your real face behind all the, 5 hours of makeup and hair and everything.
Totally.
But it's a process. This is like...
Can we speak into that for a bit? Because that's fad. It's like a fad, and it's like all fads, right? Like we get these fad diets, we get these fad things. Do you feel like sometimes that's a fad? Like that we're gonna have this body positivity and it's a fad, but really it's just fluff. Like really that's not what's going on. Like there's still this thing going on, but we kind of have these fads that we kind of attach to. We go for the ride and then we get off it in a couple of months and then we're back to whatever.
I mean,
like a phase.
I hope not. I really hope not, because I feel really, really sorry for these, preteens and teens, and it's, they're dealing with so much right now. There's so much pressure.
Sure.
And I've met a couple of women recently while I was at work, and they were saying, well, we're trying to keep our kids off, the phone, and they're not allowed social media, or they're only allowed to go on social media on the weekends, or the phone use is limited. Okay. But again, the problem with that is, when all their other friends are doing it and it becomes feast or famine, they're going to go on it, behind your, unfortunately, we all know they're probably at some point going to go on it, even though mom and dad said don't go on your phone or don't look. It's very hard to control without driving yourself crazy.
Yeah. Well, it's the same as you said about the food thing. It's just like you're restricting yourself, so that's all you can think about now. You're just obsessed. You get obsessed about the thing that you're trying not to give yourself, and then that actually makes it worse.
I think balance in all things.
How do you teach this now? What is intuitive eating? How do you teach teenagers or these people at university? You're going to university and talking to all these universities. What are you saying to them? How do you teach them intuitive eating? How do you teach them to change around? I mean, they kind of like, you can say, okay, yeah, there's a problem, this is this, but then like they kind of know that, but how do you get them moving in the right direction?
Well, there's 10 principles of intuitive eating, okay? And so what I'll do is I'll just read them out to you. I'll touch on them if we have time. Yeah. So number 1 is reject the diet mentality. That's key. Okay, that's key. You have to reject the diet mentality. So it says, throw out the diet books and all your magazine articles that offer you false hope, big zero. Does that look like zero, folks? Of losing weight quickly, easily. It's just going to happen,
Yeah.
And get angry at those lies that have led you to believe that you were a failure every time the diet you gain back your weight. So that's number 1.
Number 1. I saw Netflix show where the guy was like breaking down diets and stuff, and there's a university professor that says, if you can show me a diet that works for more than 2 years, I'll give you an A+ right now. He goes, I'll give you like a perfect mark, whatever. Yeah. Like he goes, because there's no diet on the planet that actually works for more than 2 years. He said it doesn't work. It doesn't happen.
I would recommend that everybody watch Dr. Sandra Amott. She did a TED Talk in Edinburgh in 2013. That's the best. If you really want to, she's a neuroscientist. If you really want to understand what's happening on an internal level, on a psychological level, she's brilliant. So I highly, and I actually show that when I do my talks at universities. So the second principle is honor your hunger. So this basically means, pay attention. And I could talk about this for hours. Pay attention to what is happening. Am I hungry? Am I not hungry? What is going on? A lot of people graze all day, right? They're mindlessly grazing all day long. This lady, she's awesome. She's a friend of mine. And she grazes all day, just grazing all day. And I said, what are you going to have for dinner? She goes, oh, I don't know. I'm grazing all day. I'm just eating a bag of nuts at work. We'll see when I get home. She goes, usually I'm full. I don't feel the same because I've been eating nuts all day. And then she would say, well, the problem later is that I suddenly get hungry again at like 8, 9 o'clock, and then I'm eating late. And so honor your hunger means basically like listen to your hunger and your satiety. So if you're hungry, honor that. Your body's trying to tell you something. How do you eat? If you think you're going to get hungry later and you've got a meeting or something, let's say you leave your house and you're not hungry, but you've got a meeting, and that meeting is going to be extended. And at that time, you're probably going to be hungry. So plan for that. So I always, tell my clients to have some nuts, have a protein snack, have something with you, okay? So plan for that, but honor your hunger and also your satiety. And I call it my sweet spot. That place where you feel just right. Now, the Japanese call this hara harachibu, which is you eat to 80% fill point. Now, that's not a diet. That is just this place that we all have internally where we feel just right. And only you can decide where that is. Okay? But when I teach, I say to them, think of it as a muscle that you're exercising for the first time. Stronger and stronger and stronger each time you use it, and it gets easier and easier to keep going back to. So once I found that place, intuitive eating, it became relatively easy after that.
That's awesome. I love that. What's that called again? Japanese? What's that Japanese word? Harajuku.
Japanese, yeah, they're
Awesome.
quite brilliant. So, and also with all your hunger, a lot of people skip breakfast, a lot of people skip lunch, because they're just not hungry. And then what happens later in the day? They pass a deli counter or a drive-through on the way home because they're absolutely starving, and they fill up until they're stuffed, And I always say the same thing. Would you get in your car in the morning and expect it to get you to where you want to go, but no gas? No. So you have to think of our bodies the same way. It needs fuel. There's a lot to be said on each of these. So I'm going to,
No, that's good. Go for it. Go for it. You got you got a little time here. Go
Number
ahead.
3 is make peace with food, which is what I was talking about. So call a truce and stop the food fight. This is where you give yourself unconditional permission to eat. Because when we tell ourselves we cannot or should not have a particular food, right, that's intense deprivation, which leads then to intense cravings. And then when you finally give in to that bag of Doritos or, pizza or whatever it is, even a big salad, we end up eating it with such intensity that we usually end up overeating, and then we're left with overwhelming guilt. And you're doing that.
Nice. So what about the people who are going to be like, okay, like I got lots of peace with food. It's just like I can just eat, and I just like my levels are just higher, and and that's kind of my problem. I can just eat, and I eat all the time, and and I always feel like I'm hungry and all of that. Do you find that there's a conflict in because some people at the beginning of this would be like, does that make sense?
Well, talking about
where they would want to. Maybe it is emotional eating, or maybe they just have like a high threshold for like a lot of food, or maybe they just kind of, in those kind of things, right? Or they're giving, like you said, make peace with food, but they're like, well, they're kind of thinking like maybe they have made peace with food and now they're eating too much food.
Well, that's where that listen to your hunger and satiety comes in. Because, you're hungry, but, let's just say this, most of us are emotionally eating. Okay, most of us are. Okay.
Yes.
And maybe it's once a day, maybe it's all day, maybe it's 4 times a day, because we don't have the coping skills to deal with our emotions, and we all do it once in a while. It's when it becomes a continual thing, that it starts to become a bit of an issue, a bit of a problem. But also you have to also listen to your satiety. So if someone's hungry, great, then eat, okay? But you've listened to your satiety. Because a lot of us also, eat past our satiety. Okay?
Yeah. Like that, is there that rule, like finish everything on your plate?
Well, that's the thing too, right? It's how you were raised. I mean, you're not leaving the clear your plate.
Sure.
We still hear that little voice in the back of our heads, for the rest of our life. If we're not careful, you finish, or else you're going to be punished, or this is going to happen, or that's going to happen, or finish this because then you get dessert. The system.
Yes. Totally. Oh, there's my daughter saying truth, because I guess the last daughter is the only daughter we never did that to. The last daughter, we're like, okay, don't. As soon as you're full, stop. You don't have to finish your plate. But like sometimes we get her to eat that last bite or something. But like usually it's kind of like we're a lot softer there. All the other daughters, sorry, baby. All the other daughters are like more like finish your food. Like that was kind of like we were bringing in that old school.
So for parents out there, you have to be really mindful around that. It's because it sticks with you, later on.
Yeah, for sure.
So I was going to jump into emotional eating, which is actually principle number 7. Okay, but we can get to that quickly. I'll power through them. So number 3 is make peace with food. So when you stop depriving yourself of that food, it no longer becomes an issue. It no longer becomes a battle. It's like Evelyn Tribble. I was listening to her, and she was talking about. Think of people who, they're bakers, right? And they have a cookie recipe, okay? So you're practicing this cookie recipe over and over and over and over and over again, and everyone in your family's eating it over and over and over and over and over again. Guess what happens? They don't cook cookies anymore. You just piece of fruit? You know, can I have a salad? They get so sick of it. Not necessarily suggesting that, but you can if you want to. But you know, I think it's called habituation. So once you remove that deprivation, you allow yourself to have what you want to have. Again, for me, it's all about moderation. Okay, especially for people with eating disorders, so they don't get triggered by overeating, because that's where the triggers come in. So that would be number 3, make peace with food. Number 4 is challenge the food police. Okay, so this is where we scream no to all those little thoughts in our head that tell us we're really bad because we had an extra sandwich at lunch or a cookie. We're good because we starved ourselves all day and we only had 1,000 calories. And it's
interesting. That inner critic, right?
And it's the things that, you know, all the things that people have said to us, you know, things we're constantly hearing about food that is clean and unclean. Okay? Diets, all the diets that are out there, and it seems these little negative barbs and phrases at us. It's that cognitive behavior therapy. So we have to reframe that, is what I want to say. So in cognitive therapy.
Interesting. How do you do that? How do you kind of like, between criticizing yourself for eating too much or rewarding yourself for being on your strict diet, what do you say to yourself there instead?
Well, you're punishing yourself, right? You're
punishing yourself. Like you're kind of going between the pillars. Is there something you say to yourself that gives yourself permission to be like, no, it's okay? Like, is there?
I do now, but I never do. You know, before, you know, that would make me want it to act out in a behavior, right? It's like, oh my God, I can't believe I did that. I feel horrendous. And you flog yourself, literally. You punish. It's very hard for people to really fully understand. It's very, very, very hard, unless you're in recovery, to really fully grasp and fathom how you feel in eating disorder behaviors. The struggle there, it's. I wish there was more therapists and registered dietitians, and I really do wish there was more of them in recovery that were, you know, helping people out there, you know? So we're on Challenge the Food Police. So it says, you know, chasing these thoughts away is critical to returning to being an intuitive eater, because we were all intuitive eaters as very young children. Now, I said this in a talk, and somebody said to me, well, actually, you know, at age 3, I was being force-fed. You know, there's exception, okay?
Yes.
There's going to be exceptions, but generally, we were all intuitive eaters as very young children, okay? Evelyn and Elise did not invent intuitive eating, because that's like saying that you taught squirrels to eat. You know, it's nature, it's natural, it's how, you know, animals eat, and it's eat as very, very, very young, you know, infants, right? Very young children. However, the great thing that Evelyn and Elise did do was turn it into a program to bring people back to their innate intuitive wisdom. So number 5 is respect your fullness, which is listen to your body's biological signals that tell you when you're comfortably full. Now, full to me, my whole life, was a word that I didn't like because it meant stuffed. And eat to the point where I couldn't breathe. And that's not necessarily intuitive eating.
And stuffed probably meant fat or gross or something else.
That means that you have to take all your clothes off because you can't breathe, you know.
But oftentimes I'll see somebody and they'll eat a lot of food, and then they'll be like, "Oh, I'm so full," and that's often followed by, "I'm so fat, I'm so gross." You know, like there's usually another kind of thing that comes on afterwards.
English is a little bit different too, but basically, I really taught myself to eat intuitively. What helped me was some bowls that my girlfriend gave me, Mandy. Hi, Mandy. And actually, she designed these bowls for me. Okay, little intuitive eating bowl. I had them made by this company in China. They did a great job, actually. It was Alibaba. And inside, there's a mindful moment line, okay? What helped me was just finding a nurturing tool. Now, this is not a diet, okay? This is not portion control. Before anyone says, oh my God, she's promoting intuitive eating as a diet. I am not. I'm just saying that when you're learning to do this, especially for people with eating disorder issues, is it's important to find a tool of some kind that's a nurturing tool. It becomes like, it could be a box, it could be a plate. It doesn't matter what you use, okay? But the bowl became a perfect tool for me because I filled the bowl with food, and halfway through, I put down my utensils, I pick up my mindfulness tool, as I like to call it, and you unlock your introspective or body awareness. In that moment, you can say to yourself, okay, so how do I feel right now? If I stop eating right now, I'm going to be hungry again in 20 minutes. So if it's case, and you are, still going to be hungry again in 20 minutes, then you continue eating to the end of the bowl, and then do the same thing again at the end of the bowl. But halfway through that bowl, if I've reached that place, that sweet spot, okay, then I stop. And I just, I put the leftovers away. But this is where mindfulness comes in, where you have preferably eating in what is called a parasympathetic state. So you need to be in a calm state to eat. Really hard for people, right? Because they're eating on the fly all day long, right? They're eating by the bathroom door at work, or they're, shoveling it in the car, or they're standing over the kitchen sink. But if you can sit down for, just a few minutes and breathe, it's going to help your digestion. It's a huge benefit for your health.
How cool is that? And probably when you're anxious, like anything, you're anxious, you do things quickly. And you do, when you're anxious, you talk way faster than you normally would. You move way faster. You breathe way faster. So I would imagine eating is probably very similar to that. You whip right through a bunch of food.
So it's important to try and get into a parasympathetic state before you eat. And really tuning in halfway through. And you know what? I always tell people to look away from the food because we eat with our eyes too, right? It's like, oh, this looks amazing, and it looks amazing, it tastes amazing. So there's something there about, that obviously encourages you to eat it faster, or, you can't look away, or, it's so inviting to look at. So sometimes it's good just to look away and break that connection between you and the food. And, you've got your utensils down, and just tune in. Like, what is going on? Am I still hungry? What's going on right now? And then, of course, there's the whole aspect of foods and how that food makes you feel. Getting indigestion. Am I getting heartburn? This doesn't sit right. My stomach is hurting, or maybe it doesn't even taste good. But either which way, I think eating in a calm state and taking that break halfway through is huge. If you're learning to intuitively eat intuitively,
that's fantastic. I love that. I love it. Okay, this is all great stuff.
So that is number 5. Number 6 is discover the satisfaction factor. And it says the Japanese have the wisdom, have the wisdom of promoting pleasure as one of the goals of healthy living. Okay, so in our fury to be healthy and thin, we'll overlook the pleasure that's derived from the eating experience. So it's supposed to be pleasurable. So look how the Italians eat. Look at the Japanese and how beautiful it is, and how the plate design and the color, and it's like art. Okay. So, I mean, these principles are quite lengthy. I'm just touching on a few things.
Yeah, that's good. This is perfect. This is awesome. And I'm kind of just comparing how we eat, where it's almost like in America or North America, we'd be a consumer of food versus like, you know, in some of these places, like you sit down, you have wine, it's a family event. It's like an experience. A lot of times food is like eating is kind of wrapped up in all that. Sometimes I think in North America, especially in some places of the States, no offense to people, but like sometimes I've seen it was like consuming. It's just like, give me as much as humanly possible. Just give me a ton and I'll probably be back later. And it's like, I'm just consuming food. Maybe that 3 days a week thing is just like really buried into it, or 3 times a day, like you got to eat your 3 meals a day. Like maybe that's buried into us a little bit, and we just consume just because.
Yeah, you know, it's supposed to be. I would just keep going back and thinking about how the Italians eat, you know, and look how it's slow, it's enjoyable, you know, it's experience. People here, it's just like we're just eating just to survive, you know, it's just. Let's have a quick, eat that quickly. And actually, when I think about Instagram and everybody taking pictures of food, I think it has actually it's done a good thing that way, because it's, you know, people are going, oh my God, look at this, and it's so pretty, and look at this doing with tofu and, you know, greens, and anyhow, you know what I mean?
Sure. Yeah.
But basically, I think I tell people you don't have to lay the table like Martha Stewart to create this experience, you know? If just sit down and grab a placemat or a napkin or what have you. I mean, just try and make it remotely inviting for yourself. They say that it takes much less food to feel satisfied. It's interesting how that works, because it becomes the experience itself, you know? Again.
Interesting. Yeah. That's very interesting.
And then number 7 is honor your feelings without using food, right? Emotional eating, just like people use something else. So find ways to comfort, nurture, and soothe your feelings without using food. So, you know, anxiety, loneliness, depression, boredom, stress, school stress. Everything has a trigger and everything has a different appeasement. And unfortunately, it won't fix any of our feelings.
It's very much in our society, right? Comfort eating. I think about ice cream when you break up, it's like, go get a tub of ice cream because your boyfriend just broke up with you, and da-da-da. It's kind of like we have that very much threaded into our kind of thinking, right?
Yes, I mean, you know, again, you know, I think there's nothing wrong with it occasionally. I just think, you know, I was talking to one lady, and, you know, it was an issue, okay? It's when it starts to become an issue. Doing it all day long. I'm not hungry. I'm grazing all day long. I have no idea where my hunger and satiety is, because I'm always eating. You know, I'm all day long. And then I'll say to people, I had a conversation with somebody else, and she says, I don't emotionally eat. I just get bored. I'm like, well, okay, that's emotion.
Funny.
You're emotionally eating because you're bored, okay? So, and you're uncomfortable because you're bored. You're trying to, you know, fill the time, or they don't consider it emotionally eating, you know. They'll say, I mindless snack. Okay, you're probably emotionally eating.
Totally. That was a running joke in our house all through COVID. It's like, I'm not hungry, I'm just bored. And we actually even posted memes of it and stuff. Like that was a joke. Like we made it kind of a funny thing, right?
But, you know, we all deserve to take care of ourselves and comfort ourselves. I mean, this is a crazy time we're in, right?
So I love that balance again. That's what you're speaking of, the balance. You're saying like, no, don't villainize it. Don't villainize emotional eating. Just understand that there's a time for it, and we want to make sure that it's in balance with our life.
And preferably, you know,
that's awesome.
I would just say, you know, try and have some tools. Try and have some tools that you can use instead. And there's some great breathing exercises. I'm trying to think of the name of this guy, and it's completely slipped my mind, that I actually have on my workshop, the video, and he does this 5-minute parasympathetic breathing exercise. And he does it everywhere he goes. You know, he does it at the airport. He does it, you know, waiting to do a public speaking event, you know, at work, in relationships, when he starts stressing out. He's tensing, 5-minute little parasympathetic, because it taps into, when you do that, when you do some of these exercises, it taps into that parasympathetic nerve, right? It's like you're releasing your own value.
That's awesome.
We just need to find some other tools, you know, because ultimately we end up, you know, we emotionally eat, you know, you go and emotionally eat, and then you usually end up full, but then you've still got the emotional issue to deal with. Obviously, it's good to try and find some other tools. And then number 8 is respect your body. So accept your genetic blueprint, right? So just a person with a size 8 shoe like me doesn't expect to squeeze into a 5. And I always joke when I do my talk because I have tried to squeeze into a 5. And I know people have removed stuff like that. But at some point, you want to accept your genetic blueprint. And this comes down to perfection, right? This comes down to this ongoing
acceptance, self-acceptance, self-love, all of that stuff.
Before I forget, Ken, I just want to say that I highly recommend this book. It's called The Perfection Deception. And you know, teens out there, this is really, it's a short read. It's a really short read. There's a lot of celebrity quotes in this too, by Jane Bloomstein, PhD. And I usually take it around to the schools with me. It's brilliant. But at some point, you want to make peace with your body. Okay, want to make peace.
Yeah, good. I love having resources like that for clients. I have a lot of people. I also struggle with body dysmorphia. Like, there's a ton of people that do that, and so that's awesome. Right? I love having a resource to give people. Okay, so now we're at number 9.
I got my pages mixed up. Okay, so exercise, feel the difference. Okay, so forget militant exercise. So find something you really enjoy that energizes you. I mean, I used to like to go to the gym. Haven't been for a long time. It's been a while. COVID and a few other health issues I've had going.
Right.
But I love to ride my bike down by the beach. You know, I could do like 25 miles down by the beach and not even realize it. Of course, then I realized I could ride home. And by this point, the wind is usually in the opposite direction. And I need to get lifted right now. But the point being, if your only motivation to get out of bed in the morning is to burn calories, it is not sustainable long term. So you want to have fun with your exercise, okay? Not boot camp. I've got to get up. Because you can't sustain that, right? Hey, if you could do that, great. If you can sustain that, love it. You know, great. That's, I mean, whatever works for you. But
most. I mean, that's it's interesting, right? Most things that are like intrinsically motivated from a place of like worth and value, they seem to last longer, right?
Well, it's just hard to keep up that regime, you know? It's hard to keep that going. And then number 10 is honor your health. So make food choices that honor your health while making you feel well. And that's where I always say in my talk, you know, people will say, oh, you teach intuitive eating? Oh, I eat a lot of Buddha bowls. And acai bowls, and I eat a lot of salads, and I'm really healthy. They immediately start telling me about what they're eating, you know? And I say, no, it's not about what you're eating, it's about how you're eating it. But obviously, we all know the benefits of eating from the 4 food groups. We all know the benefits of eating fresh foods produced by nature, rather foods produced in a factory and dyed blue. We all know that, right? But they say you won't get nutrient deficient from one day, one meal, or one snack. So it's progress, not perfection. What is it?
Nice.
So again, those are the 10 principles.
Those are great principles. Okay, I'm gonna. If you could send them to me or whatnot, then I'm gonna post them tomorrow, and then everybody can have them. So they send me a photo of that, because those are great. And then anybody that wants to kind of tap into those, and also. The name of that book
this
again?
One, the principles are in their first edition book. They're in the book. Intuitive Eating. They're in here, but I'll send them to you, Ken. And the other one is Perfection Deception. Yeah.
Which is fantastic. I'm definitely going to order that one myself, that Perfection Deception, for sure. Okay, what are your top 3 things, because we're going to run out of time, they're going to kick us out. What are your top 3 things that you would say? Remember, we talked about the top 3 things you would say about intuitive eating or about dieting or prevention, or what are your top 3
So
things?
the top 3 things are, I think the first principle would be tune into your interoceptive awareness. So practice using mindfulness to tune into your body. It's like when you meditate, you drop into your body when you meditate, right? So you drop out of your head and you get into your body. So that practice, get out of your head and get into your body and start tuning into what's going on right now. Am I hungry? Am I satiated? Did I eat too much? Just tune into what's going on. Now, for people with disorders, they do have slowed stomach emptying sometimes. It's called gastroparesis. So that's a little harder for people with eating disorders in recovery. It takes a little bit more time, but they will get there eventually, you know? They have to be patient with that. Number 2s would be honor your feelings without using food. So again, try and separate your emotions from the food. You know, so before you walk to the fridge, you just had lunch, and before you walk to the fridge, an hour later, half an hour later, just stop and ask yourself, am I hungry right now? And if I'm not, then what am I doing? What am I addressing? What's going on? How am I feeling? How is this really going to serve me right now? So that would be number 2. And number 3 would be find a nurturing tool and start practicing. Okay? Find a cute bowl, you know, plate, whatever you want. I mean, a lot of people with eating disorders or diet and restrict a lot, they're not comfortable. I wasn't comfortable with regular sized dinnerware because if I overfilled my plate, I felt judged. If I underfilled the plate, I felt judged. And that's why I ended up choosing.
Yeah. I like the line in the middle of it, and it's not just a portion size. It's about like, okay, just take a second, do a little check-in, where are we at, and then just like, okay, you want to keep eating? No problem, keep going, because that's fine. But it's just about check-in. Just check in.
And give yourself some grace. Yeah. You know, we've got to stop beating ourselves up all the time, right? Because we just end up making ourselves sick. It's just not worth it. And when you find that nurturing tool, then you can start practicing to find that sweet spot muscle, as I like to call it. That place where you feel just right. Think of Goldilocks and the 3 bears. She goes to the 3 bears' house, right? One's too hot, one's too cold, and one is just so
right. I love that. Right.
Yeah.
Perfect. That's awesome. Sue, these are all great things. These are amazing. This is fantastic. Thank you so much. I know that's like, and it just seems kind of, what I like about it is just like anything in mental health that's good, it seems normal. It's not crazy. Like, it's not like, what? Oh my God. It's actually like, oh no, this makes a lot of sense. Like, and anything in mental health is kind of like that. It makes a lot of sense. And so I really dig this. Your nonprofit is Eating Disorder Prevention SoCal.org,
That's right. And there's actually a donation button if anybody wants to donate at any period of time or knows anyone that wants to donate. And, you know, I was about to speak at Pepperdine University again up in Malibu. I've spoken at Hope International University, all the wellness centers in Orange County I've covered. I did UC Irvine right before the lockdown. And I'm hoping, I was talking to UCLA about getting up to UCLA. But, you know, everything's closed down right now, right? So
everything's, for sure. I know you're passionate, though. You're going to be right back into this as soon as you can, like as soon as they let you, right? How did they get a hold of you? If somebody wants to get a hold of you, if somebody wants to reach out to you, do they just do it through Instagram? It's Anti-Diet Experience.
So it's the Anti-Diet Experience. You know, I'm terrible. I am not tech savvy at all. But Eating Disorder Prevention is attached to my Anti-Diet Experience Instagram. They call that I have no clue. They're attached together. It's like one account. And I just split between the two. So Eating Disorder Prevention has its own Instagram page.
Nice.
So I'm passionate about it. And I'm actually in the middle of writing a school program for degrees in grade 4, grade 5 that talks about intuitive eating and diet. And,
perfect. And I think we need it. I think it's time. I think we need it. And it's nice. I think it's about there's a lot there. It's about this villainizing of food, and like there's this thing, and it's just like this nice balance because, like you said, animals just have balance. Like we just have, and we're gonna be a lot happier. We're not gonna be beating ourselves up and stuff. This is amazing. Okay, guys, if you want to get a hold of Susan, reach out to her. Go to Eating Disorder Prevention SoCal, like Southern California, SoCal.org. Don't forget about those 2 books.
And I do free counseling. So there's free counseling through my nonprofit, okay? And you can also email me at Susan M.F., as in Freddie, but it's not really Freddie, Williams at gmail.com.
Williams at gmail.com.
And I have some groups and stuff, and I'm actually doing I have a finance day job that I'm doing right now, but no, I'm going to always be available for anybody who wants counseling.
Okay. So, when you say free counseling, you just might get a bunch of people that just jump on there.
That's okay. That's okay.
Okay, perfect. All right, so I'm going to post all this tomorrow. Thank you so much, Sue. Amazing. You're so good at speaking. You know your stuff so well. I hope that you continue to do this, and it's definitely something.
Well, it's my first IG. I try and keep a low profile.
No, don't. I actually don't think you should keep a low profile because I think you have something to say, and you've got the authority to say it because you lived it. This is your life, right? So you're not just talking out of some textbook. You're not just some lady that's whatever. You're like, hey, this is a lifelong struggle for me.
Yes,
let me help you with
absolutely.
this. Yeah, those are the best kind of people to teach.
Well,
right?
Yes. I mean, I have a whole history. I just want to help others. I don't want to see anybody else in this, and I certainly don't want to see kids and teens.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I love it. And they need you, Sue, so keep talking.
Thanks so much.
Keep going. You betcha. Okay, guys, take care.
Bye.
Bye.